Hey, what's going on? Heroes Pochiforce here. Pokemon Sun and Moon has been out for a few weeks now, and I've had the opportunity to play it through from beginning to end. Now with Pokemon Sun and Moon, we did get a whole lot of new information, and because of it, I've developed a few theories about the Pokemon world. Before we jump into this first theory, I thought I should warn you guys, I will be putting out spoilers based off of Pokemon Sun and Moon. So if you haven't finished the game yet, I recommend you go do that before you watch this video, unless you don't mind spoilers. If you don't mind spoilers, welcome aboard. But if you prefer spoiler free, I recommend going and finishing the game and then coming back. So in this video, I want to talk about the Pokemon League. We've always had some suspicions about what the Pokemon League was for, aside from just giving the player an end goal, but it was never really explicitly stated. Now with Pokemon Sun and Moon and the development of the Alolan Pokemon League, we get some new insights here that I feel could probably help us figure out just what it is that makes up a Pokemon League. Now before we really jump into the Pokemon League as it's organized in Alola, I thought we would compare it to one of the older regions that basically acts as our benchmark of what a Pokemon League is. So we have here Kanto, and we're going to talk about Kanto because it is pretty much the baseline for all Pokemon Leagues that have followed. Now at the very top of the Pokemon League, you have the Elite Four, who reside in the league building, whatever that league building may be, and above them is the champion. At the bottom tier of the Pokemon League are the 8 gym leaders, each of which can reward you one of 8 gym badges. And there can only be 1 gym per city. Now we know there can only be 1 gym per city because in Saffron City, there was actually a competition between 2 rival gyms to see who would be the official Pokemon League gym for Saffron City, the Fighting Dojo or Sabrina's gym. Even in game, even after this battle has been resolved, you can still see a lot of the Pokemon League gym iconography on the Fighting Dojo. The Fighting Dojo, of course, lost that fight, and Sabrina became the official gym leader for Saffron City. Now, it's unknown exactly how gym leaders are selected, but we do at least know that gym leaders have to be strong trainers. We know that because Sabrina did, after all, have to compete with the Fighting Dojo, and it was just a straight competition. Whichever was the stronger trainer earned the right to be gym leader. But we also know that gym leaders are often persons of great social standing within the community. Blue, who is a former champion, would eventually become the gym leader for Viridian City. Lieutenant Surge is a war hero. Blaine is a brilliant scientist who is believed may have worked on the Mewtwo project. Claire is part of the respected Dragon Clan, the same Dragon Clan that Elite Four and Champion Lance is a part of. Now Watson is a former administrator to the Mauville Corporation, the same Mauville Corporation that built Mauville City, the city where his gym is founded. Flannery is the daughter of a former gym leader who was very respected in their community. And then you've got Crasher Wake, who is a famous wrestler, and you've got Elisa, who's a famous musician, and Skyla, who's a famous pilot, and so on and so on. Now, gym leaders seem to have the highest authority in their city. They act above police officers and other persons of authority, and they seem to make pretty big decisions for their respective communities. A good example of this is that I believe Clement was the one responsible for closing off certain portions of Lumio City when it lost power for the sake of safety. So in a way, it's like gym leaders act as local governments. Now I may be saying, well Poji, what about places like Pallet Town that doesn't have a gym leader, or Lavender Town doesn't have a gym leader? Well, those places are probably more like traditional places run by elders, where people follow an elder. In the case of Pallet Town, you've got Professor Oak living there, and in Lavender Town, you have Mr. Fuji. Now in regions like this, Pokemon trainers can start their league challenge at the age of 10. Though based off of trainers that we have seen in game, we know that you can become a Pokemon trainer much younger than that. Trainers who defeat all 8 gym leaders and get all 8 badges can then challenge the Elite Four, which is a gauntlet where they have to fight all 4 trainers in a row without stopping. Trainers who complete the Elite Four challenge then get to face off against the standing champion, and then if they beat the champion, they become the new champion. If there is no standing champion, then they are champion by default. Now let's compare that to the league structure of the Alolan Islands. Each of the 4 major islands of Alola is led by a kahuna. Kahunas are chosen by their guardian deity for each island. We have seen one such chosen ourselves when Hapu receives the Z bracelet in the shrine for Tapu Fini on Pony Island. Kahunas are responsible for overseeing and protecting the Pokemon and people living on their island. Kahunas are also responsible for administering the Grand Trial for their island. To be eligible for the Grand Trial on each island, trainers must first challenge all of the other trials available on that island. There are 7 trials available across all 4 islands in total. Now, each of the 7 trials, except for the Dragon Trial on Pony Island, has a trial captain who administers and oversees the trial. Now, for every trial and Grand Trial completed by a trainer on the Island Challenge, they receive the corresponding Z Crystal for their Z Ring. A trainer is considered to have completed their Island Challenge once they have completed all 7 of the trials and all 4 of the Grand Trials. Now, thanks to Pokemon Sun and Moon, we get to see the birth of a brand new Pokemon League. No longer does a trainer's challenge end just with completing all 4 Grand Trials. When you reach Ula Ula Island, Professor Kukui tells about how he wants to create a new Pokemon League situated on the peak of this mountain right here. I can't remember the name of it right now. These Alolan names are kind of difficult on me, so I'm just going to put the name of the island or the mountaintop right here. Mountain name, go. So Professor Kukui creates the Pokemon League, and he models it after the Pokemon League of Kanto. We know he models it after the Pokemon League of Kanto because earlier in the game, he recounts to us his experience challenging the Indigo League before losing to Lance. Now, Professor Kukui picked the members for the Elite Four, and of those members, 3 of them were Kahunas. Kahuna Hala, Kahuna Olivia, and Kahuna Nanu. However, Kahuna Nanu declined the offer, and so Captain Acerola was chosen to take his place. Now, this shows us 2 things. One, that you have to be selected to be an Elite Four member. You can't just choose to be an Elite Four member. And 2, it is a purely voluntary position. After all, Kahuna Nanu turned it down. Now, the 4th member of the Elite Four is Kahili, who is a world-renowned athlete and trainer, and is the daughter of the hotel owner on Akala Island. This one right here. Now, it's worth noting that Kahuna Hapu was not chosen for this, though I think it's likely due to the fact that she was very new to being a Kahuna at the time that this league was being founded. Now, this generally shows that persons chosen for the role of Elite Four are persons who not only have great skill in battling, but also a very high social standing. Now, this aligns well with what we know about Elite Four members in previous generations, such as Koga in Generation 2, who had previously been a gym leader. Then you also have Lance in Generation 1, who again is a member of a very well-respected dragon clan. You also have Malva of the Kalos Elite Four, who is the lead anchor for the Pokemon News Network, and you also have Sebold of the Kalos Elite Four, who is recognized as a world-renowned chef. Now, based on this, you would think that champions are selected the same way. I mean, you got Lance as champion in Generation 2, we already know all about him. Then you had Iris as champion in Generation 5, and she used to be a gym leader. And you have Diantha as champion in Generation 6, and she's a world-famous movie star. But as we all know, champions aren't picked that way. You have to earn the title of champion through combat, and you have to fight to keep that title. In fact, when you revisit the Pokemon League in Pokemon Sun and Moon, you have to refight the Elite Four just to get to your chair, your throne. They explain that refighting the Pokemon League is your way of proving that you're still strong enough to be worthy of being called champion. And actually, I believe Acerola even claims that the Elite Four are vying for your title. Now, in exchange for having constant competition for your seat, it seems that the title of champion comes with ultimate authority and ultimate responsibility. In Generation 2, Champion Lance was very frequent in trying to stop Team Rocket. In Generation 4, Champion Cynthia was also very active in the process of standing against Team Galactic and Sinnoh. And in Generation 3, you have Champion Steven, who not only stood against both Team Magma and Team Aqua, but was also very crucial in the decision-making process for things that affected the entire world in the Delta episode. So champions, in a way, are kind of like the supreme rulers of their respective region. And that to me seems to bring up the primary purpose of the Pokemon League. Kukui, when he said he was making the Pokemon League, said that he was doing it so that way the power of Alolan trainers can be recognized in other regions. Now, this has huge meaning, especially when you consider the fact that Pokemon trainers are not sportsmen, at least not entirely. Trainers are soldiers, and Pokemon battles can be war. The war of 3,000 years ago fought by AZ was fought with Pokemon. The war that Lieutenant Surge participated in, where his Pokemon saved him, was fought with Pokemon. Some of the more aggressive evil teams out there, like Team Rocket and Team Skull, make it very clear that when they're Pokemon battling you, they're not doing it for fun. They're out to end you, as they put it. They want to kill you. You're fighting for your life. Also consider that police officers in the Pokemon world do not carry guns. Instead, they bring Growlithes and other Pokemon with them and engage in Pokemon battles to capture suspects. Pokemon battles are not all fun and games. So when Kukui says it's about recognizing the power of Alolan trainers, it's just not recognizing competitiveness and sportsmanship and, yeah, I'm stronger than you. It's about recognizing military power. And it seems that Kukui might be hoping that by adopting a similar power structure as other regions, they can be recognized as on a national scale. So now let's take a look at all the evidence. You have a champion who is the ultimate ruler and leads over the Elite Four. The Elite Four are chosen from well-esteemed members of society, either due to wealth, power, or service to the League. The League has authority over gym leaders in most regions, or kahunas in Alola, who in turn have authority over their respective areas of their region. Trainers who successfully defeat all 8 gym leaders in the region, or all 7 trial captains in 4 grand trials in Alola, are now permitted to challenge the Elite Four. If they successfully run the gauntlet with the Elite Four, then they get to challenge the champion. If they beat the champion, then they become the new champion, or if there is no champion, they become champion by default. The Elite Four and champions represent the absolute best that region has to offer to other regions. So we consider that most positions in the Pokemon League are selected through a combination of physical power and social standing, with the highest office in the land being decided by a might makes right power structure? Then that kind of makes the Pokemon League champion a dictator. Right to rule by military force, and that champion rules for only as long as it isn't dethroned by another challenger. That can be pretty terrifying. But then I find myself asking, what do the Pokemon professors have to do with all this? Now you have to remember that the Alolan Pokemon League was set up by full authority from Professor Kukui. No one gave him permission to do it, he just did it. He's even there when you first take your throne, and you have to battle him to prove yourself worthy before he will acknowledge you as the Alolan League champion. And it's not just Kukui. Professor Oak is present when you beat Blue for Pokemon League Champion in Kanto, and he's there again when you beat Lance for Pokemon League Champion in Johto. Professor Birch makes an appearance in the Champions Room after you beat Steven in Hoenn, and Rowan not only appears in Sinnoh to walk with you to the Hall of Fame, he even comments about how he's been there many times before. The only professors who don't make an appearance in the Pokemon League Champions Room is Professor Elm, because Professor Oak took his place, Professor Juniper, and Professor Sycamore. But it's important to point out that Professor Sycamore, while he wasn't in the Champions Room, was there to congratulate you afterward, and was even the one heading up the reward ceremony for you and your friends for stopping Team Flare. Now, thanks to Sun and Moon, we know that the champion can't just walk into his own Champions Room. He still has to beat the Elite Four every time he goes back to prove that he's still worthy. Which means if these professors are showing up in the Champions Room, either they're ridiculously powerful trainers themselves, or their authority transcends the Pokemon League. Now we do know, thanks to Agatha, that Professor Oak used to be a really powerful trainer, and in fact in Red and Blue, there's lost data that suggests that Professor Oak was the true final battle of the game, being the most difficult trainer to date. You also have to consider the possibility that Professor Rowan in his past might have actually been a league champion, hence his remark about visiting the Hall of Fame several times. When you consider too that most of these professors are older men and women, who's to say how they lived their youth? They might actually be a lot stronger than they let on. But where this theory doesn't really hold true is with Professor Birch. Professor Birch, while not as young as Sycamore, is younger than Oak and Rowan, and he's shown himself very inept at Pokemon battles. When you first encounter him, he's running from a Poochyena, and he trusts you, a trainer who's never even battled before, to save him. Yes, he enters the Champions Room with Brendan or May, depending on which way you're playing, so maybe Brendan or May fought their way through the Elite Four. But from my understanding, Elite Four challengers have to go in by themselves. So either Birch is above the rules, or Birch fought his own way through. And that last one I find highly suspect. Now this tells me that Pokemon professors may actually have ultimate authority over the Pokemon League, but not in a governmental sort of way. It's not like Champions Dictator, Pokemon Professor Super Dictator, not like that. Because while Professor Kukui is the one that established the Pokemon League, When it comes to all other decisions, he defers to the reigning authority. Professor Kukui is not the one who gives you your starter Pokemon, Kahuna Hala is. And again, you see the same with Professor Sycamore, where he lives in Lumio City with Clement. Clement is the one who made the decision to close down sections of Lumio City for safety reasons. That was not Sycamore's choice. So if even gym leaders, who are the lowest rung of the Pokemon League power structure, have more authority than the Pokemon professors, then how is it that the Pokemon professors can establish a league? What role do the professors play? Well, it should be noted that most Pokemon professors are acknowledged as the ultimate authority on Pokemon. Their knowledge and understanding about Pokemon, their moves, their habits, their habitats, how they breed, what brings out their power, are all secrets that are unlocked by the professors. So the way I view Pokemon professors are experts who are seekers of kings rather than kings themselves. They choose which trainers get a Pokedex, because not just anybody gets a Pokedex. There are Pokemon trainers in the game that when you talk to them express envy that you have a Pokedex and they don't. Plus in Pokemon Sun and Moon, they very pointedly point out that the Rotom Dex is a very rare thing. Not just anybody gets these. The professor in each region is also responsible for you getting your starter Pokemon. True, as I said, Professor Kukui is not the one who gives you your starter in Sun and Moon. Hala does, but Kukui is the one that arranges that meeting. And while Professor Sycamore himself is not the one who gives you your starter Pokemon in X and Y, he is the one that sends Tierno, Shauna, and Trevor to come find you and give you your Pokemon. They are acting on his behalf. It's also worth pointing out that, believe it or not, starter Pokemon also aren't just given to anybody either. They're actually very rare. Thanks to the Pokemon multiverse theory, we now know that every copy of a Pokemon game is an entirely separate universe from other copies of that same game. So when you consider that, who actually has a starter Pokemon? You, maybe your rival, and a couple other elite trainers throughout the game. You usually meet them in the later half of the game. Most trainers in the game don't have a starter Pokemon. Very few do, and those that do are usually worth remembering. Even among trainers who have admitted to taking the Island Challenge in the past in Pokemon Sun and Moon, most if not all of those do not have a starter Pokemon. So it seems that only those who go through a professor actually get a starter Pokemon, and not all of those who do actually get one. You see, it's my belief that professors act as a sage of sorts. They use their expert knowledge of Pokemon to evaluate trainers and give them their stamp of approval with a Pokedex and a starter Pokemon, tools to help them get started. They do this with the express expectation that that trainer can ultimately become the next champion of the region. You see, professors are kind of like Merlin. Not in charge directly, but depending on which version of Arthurian lore you subscribe to, Merlin is directly responsible for Arthur becoming king. Merlin rules over no one, but is responsible for the ruler. And everyone, even Arthur himself, grants Merlin the utmost respect. In the same way that the Elite Four and Champion allow Professor Kukui and the other professors essentially free reign over the Elite Four building. He may have had the power to form the league with his expertise, but he doesn't actually possess any power within that power construct. I mean, it's interesting if you think about it. Professor Oak's first name is Samuel, and Samuel is a name out the Bible for a Christian prophet who was to choose the next king of Israel and ultimately chose Jesus Christ, or I suppose you could say Jesus chose him to share the word of Christ. But basically, the same concept holds true here. Professors are the prophets who choose the next king. So the idea that professors expressly pick future champions isn't so far-fetched. So maybe earlier when I said the Pokemon League was a dictator-run government, I misspoke. Maybe the Pokemon League is more of an Arthurian kingdom. The champion is a noble king, his right to rule proven by the grand trial posed to him by the Elite Four. The Elite Four are his loyal knights of the Round Table, who help the champion protect his kingdom and serve, so long as the champion still proves himself worthy. Together they stand as a shining beacon of all that is good and righteous within their region, standing out as a testament to other kingdoms, while the professor acts as their aide and advisor, a sage to pick the next generation's leader. But that's just one viewpoint. What do you think? Is the Pokemon League a vicious dictatorial government theocracy, or is it an Arthurian kingdom run on nobility and respect. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And in the next video, we'll be talking about Blue and how you might not be so different from him as you think. But I hope you guys will stay tuned for that video. Hope you enjoyed this one. It was a lot of effort to put it together. Kept struggling with them Alolan names, but I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe to stay tuned for future videos. And until next time, heroes, I'm Pogiforce, and you guys stay awesome. Take care.